Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. We've got 3 of us here today instead of 2 of us, so I think it's going to be an extra good webinar. We are so excited to be here today for our webinar about how to prove the importance of social to stakeholders. I think it's going to be a super helpful webinar. I believe that we actually got the idea for this webinar from the chat in a past webinar, because one question we get asked all the time is how to prove the value of social to stakeholders. I don't know about you guys, but in some past roles, I've definitely experienced leadership being like, I know we should have social media, but like not really always understanding the value of it. And I think it's easy for people who like aren't in the weeds of social media day in and day out to like really get it. So hopefully this webinar helps you make it clear to your stakeholders or your clients, leadership, etc. But as people are trickling in, I'm already seeing one first-time attender. Welcome. As people are trickling in, you might already know what we're going to ask, but let me know where you're joining from and if you feel like sharing what the weather is like where you are. I'm in Toronto and the weather is actually stunning today. It is a sunny day. There's not a cloud in the sky, so I am going out for a walk after work. But what about you, Alyssa and Jesse?
It is very nice out where I am. I'm in Burlington and like the sun is shining. It is so much warmer than I thought it was going to be. I went to take my dog for a walk and I was wearing a sweater. Big mistake. I was like dripping sweat when I came home because it's like you can't fully predict how the weather's going to be every day right now. So I thought it was colder, but it is actually quite warm out, which is great.
Yeah, in Montreal, it's pretty warm. Haven't been outside yet, but it looks pretty warm. Can't wait for my after-work walk as well.
It's one of those sneaky early fall days.
Yeah.
But we'll get right into the housekeeping slides and then we'll dive into the webinar. So if this is your first time at the webinar, maybe someone sent you a link to this or you found it while you were scrolling LinkedIn and you're wondering what HeyOrca is. Hello, it is us. We are a social media management tool for teams and agencies. So we're here to help you with all of your scheduling needs. And we also have unlimited users, which is really helpful for teams that collaborate a lot. And also, if you don't already follow us on Instagram, you definitely should. I say this every webinar, and I am totally biased when I say this because I am on the social team. But I also do think that it is like that we're great to follow just because we offer a lot of social media resources. We have hilarious memes going up all the time. We've started a 1% Better series to help give relatable tips and advice. So give us a follow over there. And then we'll hop into a quick round of intros. So Alyssa, I'll let you start off first and then we can go along the slide.
Sounds good. So I'm Alyssa. I'm a community strategist here at HeyOrca. So I work on our newsletter, and I'm really sorry if I scared anyone this morning with the newsletter. I've gotten responses that everyone was like, "Oh my God, the subject line scared me," but I was just bringing in a trend. But I love how many people have responded, being like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" So thank you to everyone. Subscribe to the newsletter. And then I also work with our HeyOrca stands and in our Facebook group. And I'll pass it to Natalie.
Amazing. So my name's Natalie, and like I mentioned, I'm the social media community strategist here at HeyOrca. So I am obsessed with all things social media and community, and I love featuring our community on social. So always feel free to reach out if you're interested in collabing. We love to do that with our community, and I will pass it along to Jesse.
Nice. I'm Jessie. I'm the director of marketing, so anything customer acquisition related. So if you're a social media manager who is looking for a new social tool, maybe you can give HeyOrca a try. And yeah, today I'll be talking to you all about competitor reports.
Amazing. And Lyle has been popping our LinkedIns in the chat. So please feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. Reach out there. We love doing that. And lastly, I will move on to our 2 giveaways. We love doing giveaways in our webinar, and we have 2 ways that you can potentially win an Amazon gift card. So the first way is super easy. We've got a poll going on our LinkedIn right now. So the question is, do you feel that your stakeholders understand the value of social? And we've popped the poll into the webinar, into the chat, sorry. And if you go vote on that poll, you'll be automatically entered to win the Amazon gift card, and the winner will be announced tomorrow. And then the second way to potentially win is to share something that you've learned from today's webinar on LinkedIn. Make sure to tag us so that we see it. And because it takes a little bit more time to write a LinkedIn post, you have until Tuesday to submit to post on LinkedIn. And one little tip that we always say is one hack you can do is screenshot a slide that really resonates with you or that you find particularly helpful. And you can use that in your LinkedIn post. So hopefully that's something that makes entering and sharing on LinkedIn a little bit easier. And with all of that out of the way, we will dive right into our webinar. So just a little agenda of what we'll be covering today. So first, we're going to start off with talking about why you should tie your social goals to your business goals. And then we'll move on to how and when to incorporate competitor benchmarks in your reports. And then we'll move on to how to use storytelling to actually translate your data into value. And then we'll move on to some reporting tools. So I will pass this along to Alyssa and we'll get started.
Sounds good. So I am going to dive into why you should tie your social goals to your business goals. And we will dive right in. All right. So when it comes to thinking of your community goals, and you may have seen this before, we've definitely touched on it in past webinars, but we do have a framework called the Community Canvas. And if you would like a copy of it, we do have a QR code on the slide. And I will also put the link in the chat here. But basically, it's a framework here that will ask you questions about your community. So it will help you dive into the purpose, the value, the success you want to get out of it. And it's a really great way to think really deeply about your community, because sometimes you just make a community and there's not really a plan behind it. You just kind of launch it. But then when you think about it, you're like, what is the main purpose of this? Why am I doing this? How am I measuring the success of it? So it's a really good way to really dive into all the details about the community. And the two main areas that we're going to go through today are the first area, which is purpose, and then success. All right, so for purpose, this is the most important part. And the question you want to answer is, why do you want to build your community? That sounds like a really simple question, but it's actually very hard to think of a really detailed answer to this question. So this is definitely where you want to start. You want to answer this question, and it will really help also if you are pitching a community to leadership or to clients who maybe don't have a big social background. Having this detailed purpose will really help when you're pitching that to them. It will help give them that big picture. So it's very important to make sure you have that purpose thought of before you even dive into any metrics. And now that we have our purpose, we're now going to do metrics. So the main thing about metrics is you want to make sure that they're aligning to the purpose that you just thought of. And a little tip is when you're thinking about metrics, you can always chat with leadership or your clients, any stakeholders that you have, and just see what the long-term and short-term goals of your brand are. And then you can really make sure that everything is tying together. So for metrics, there are a few different things you want to ask yourself before choosing the metrics that you're going to go with. So one question is, of course, what metrics are going to directly impact the purpose that we just thought of? And then the second one is, what social platforms and spaces are the priority? We all know that it is very hard to be incredibly active on every social platform because there's so many. So it's smart to just pick a few. And I suggest just creeping around all the social platforms and seeing where your community hangs out most. So for us, we like to focus on LinkedIn and Instagram because we find that's where our community is the most. So definitely take a look at it. Just pick a few to focus on. And this is also really good as well because if you're going to be diving into metrics with clients or leadership, you don't want to have like 100 numbers from 100 different social platforms because it can feel very overwhelming. So just pick a few, and then from there, we want to pick what metrics we want to measure. So we have this little cheat sheet here, and this is a good slide to screenshot. But it will show you by objective what metrics you should track. So for example, in the purpose for your community, if the main purpose is you want to build brand awareness, then maybe you want to track reach, impressions, brand mentions, follower growth, and shares. Or if it's brand advocacy, you might actually want to track the number of UGC content that your brand is getting. So it really depends, again, what that purpose is, and then you can pick the metrics that align with it.
I really like this approach. And I'll just add that at HeyOrca, we have 2 social media managers on our team, and we still only prioritize 2 platforms. So like, yeah, you'll see some content be reposted to other platforms, but the majority of our content is made for Instagram or made for Instagram. Sorry, did I say Instagram twice? I meant LinkedIn and Instagram. But yeah, don't be afraid to like narrow in, especially because I know it's difficult to have your hand in every single platform that exists.
I can't even imagine how it would feel if you have to post on every single platform, like every day. It's just too much.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, so we're gonna do a little example here. So like we were just saying, for us at HeyOrca, the main 2 platforms are LinkedIn and Instagram. So for LinkedIn, our main goal is brand awareness and advocacy. And for Instagram, the goals are to provide helpful content and to increase engagement. So my question for you is, what metrics would you include in the report if these were your goals? I'll give you a minute to write in the chat, and then I will reveal.
As we wait, I'm just loving some of these comments that there are a lot of social media managers out there who are doing it all, which props to you all. That is a ton of work. We definitely understand there. Yeah, Cassandra, me as coordinator with 2 different accounts, both have 4 platforms plus a podcast plus separate newsletters. That is a lot. Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh my gosh.
I wish I could put my answer in the chat, but I already know since you guys report to me every week.
I know. Okay, I will reveal in 10 seconds. You have 10 seconds to get your guesses in the chat. I see Kara says for brand awareness would be shares, Instagram would be engagement, profile views, post views. Okay, I love it. So here are the answers. So this is what we will track. So for LinkedIn, since the main goal is brand awareness and advocacy, we are going to track the number of mentions, follower growth, and engagement rate. And then for Instagram, we are going to do post saves, post sends, and engagement rate. And as you can see, it's just 3 metrics per platform. And I find this is really helpful, especially if you have to make a report and send it to leadership or your clients. There's not that many metrics for them to look at, so they're not going to feel overwhelmed, and it will be very clear if you're hitting the goals that you set out. So it will be a lot easier for them to digest. So go ahead.
I was going to say, Sophia in the chat is asking, is it okay to only report on 2 to 3 metrics every month? I would say totally, as long as they relate back to the purpose of why you have a social platform, which should also relate to your business goals as well, then I would say yes. That being said, every stakeholder is different. You might do 2 to 3 metrics, and then your boss or your client or whoever it might be will say, oh, actually, I also want this. So it's kind of like, you got to balance the wants of your client or stakeholders with what actually makes sense as well.
Very true. But yeah, the main takeaway here is just focus on the purpose. So everything relates back to that main purpose that you thought of. So just make sure everything relates back to that. And there's no need to confuse your clients or team with adding a bunch of metrics that they may not even understand. So yeah, just making sure everything relates back to those brand goals. But I will now pass it over to Jessie.
Nice. I'm just going to actually take a quick pause. We've noticed in the chat that there's some issues with the poll. Some people can see it, some people can't. Natalie, did you want to introduce what we'll do instead?
Okay, yes. So we see everyone saying that they can't see the poll, but it is working for some people. So what we've done is we've tried a new link for the poll. If that works for you, go ahead and vote on it. We were able to see that some people had voted on the previous poll. We've screenshotted those people. So if you were able to vote, don't worry, your vote is counted. If you're able to vote in the new poll that Jessica has just put in the chat, we can see that too. Go ahead and vote. If you're not able to see the poll at all, too many O sounds, please. So earlier, Jessica posted the question itself, which is, do you feel that stakeholders understand the value of social? You just have to scroll up a little bit in the chat. Feel free to comment on that, and that will also count as a vote. So everyone's vote, whether you vote in the poll or on that message, will count. No need to worry.
Amazing. Thank you. And I also want to remind you all, you can post something on LinkedIn as another way to participate in our contest, if that's easier as well. Okay, cool. I do see some questions in the chat. I think they might be answered in Natalie's section of this presentation. So I'm going to just pause on those for now, but Zoe and Kiana, we will get back to you. Okay, today or now, let's talk about how to incorporate competitor benchmarks. So I have a question for you all first. Are competitor insights needed with every single report? Yes or no? Let us know in the chat what you think. So again, the question is, are competitor insights needed on every report that you do as a social media manager? Yes or no? Let us know in the chat.
I feel like we need like the Jeopardy music.
Yeah, same. Or like a proper polling function in Big Marker.
Yes.
All right, Jen says no. Edelyn says no with a bunch of O's. Julia, no. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of no's in the chat. And so I'm going to reveal the answer, which is no. Competitor insights are not actually needed on every single report. So obviously there are times when they are important. And so I'm just going to quickly go through what those times could be. So number one, setting context for performance. Let's say that you're on your socials and you're like, oh my gosh, there was a dip or a spike, either or. Are you seeing this in the industry as well, or is it only on your accounts that you're seeing it? So this is a good opportunity to look at competitors for that. The second is when you're building a new strategy case. So if you're pitching new, content formats, asking for a new budget, it might be good to see what competitors are doing on their socials or what they're investing in so that you're able to bring that information to the table as well. Another reason when you should use competitor insights and reports is during quarterly or campaign reviews. So month to month or even week to week, depending what your frequency is, it's probably too frequent to bring in competitor insights on a weekly or monthly basis. But it is good to have that period where you zoom out to see what your competitors are doing on at least a quarterly basis. They're good just for wrap-ups, but also just zooming out on the big picture. And you might see things that you hadn't noticed on a weekly basis. Next thing, when focusing on competitive positioning. So if you're all of a sudden thinking, oh my gosh, my positioning maybe isn't as strong as it could be, this would be a good time to dig into what your competitors are doing so that you know how you rank against those that are out there against you. Actually, pretty recently, we redid our positioning as well. And so we did look quite a lot at competitors during this time. And lastly, when you're trying to spot new opportunities or risks. So let's say that a competitor has gone viral. You might want to be like, oh, this could be an opportunity for us. Or if they went viral for the wrong reason, maybe a different type of opportunity exists there. Maybe they're getting backlash. Maybe they're pivoting their strategy and all of a sudden you see them posting for a whole new ICP in general. So that is a good opportunity to look at competitor reports as well. All right, just looking in the chat. So Jen, I look at competitor reports roughly quarterly. I love that. Yeah, comparing similar content from competitors. Karen, where do you get competitor reports or insights? Okay, it's like you read my mind because in 2 slides, I will tell you. But before I get there, I just want to say, don't let competitor research and data completely dictate your strategy. You should be unique. You should be you online. It's so easy to be like, oh, this brand just did this. We need to do something similar, or, look at an influencer partnership or something like that. But try to be yourself when you're online. All right, so I do need to let you know about HeyOrca's competitor reports, and this is the segue that I was talking about earlier. So this is one way that you're able to do competitor research online. Currently at HeyOrca, it's available for Instagram and Facebook. You can report on up to 10 competitors, and you can look at follower growth, number of published posts, the top posts, it's time-based, so you can be like, hey, let's look at last month or last quarter or whatever that might be. And it's shareable via automated or manual email, and it's downloadable to PDF or Excel file. Hopefully those make sense. I'm looking at my bullet points now. I'm like, those aren't very readable, but that's okay. Okay, so just like a quick look at what that looks like. So published posts, you can see HeyOrca against some of our competitors, like how we publish, the number of published posts we have versus what they've done. Same thing for average business followers, like how many we've grown, how many they've grown. And then you can look at some of the top posts from each account, which is very fun. And yes, as Alyssa wrote in the chat, our social team is on fire. Well done to Natalie and Jessica. So yeah, that was it on competitor reports. I don't see any other questions in the chat, but if you do have some, feel free to add them. Kara, I barely have time for our own reports versus competitors. I totally understand that as well.
Okay, and then we're going to move on into how to use storytelling to translate that data into value. So first, let's talk about data versus information. So data is what happens when you have unsorted numbers. So like this image on the right at the very top, you've got a whole bunch of Lego pieces. And it can be really easy when reporting to be like, here's all the numbers I have. Here's every single Lego piece I have in this set. But when you're presenting to a client or leadership, and don't worry, I have definitely done this in previous roles where you're like, oh, the more data, the better. But it's more about understanding the data. And information is what happens when you tell a story. So it's about getting all the data, sorting it out, and then only reporting on the things that tell a story. So like this visual here, data is the unsorted Lego blocks, and then the story is the Lego blocks sorted out, used to build a house, or in your case, a story. So how do we tell the story? So it's my slide. So obviously I'm putting a cat picture in here, but let's go back to English class. Think about when you were telling a story in English class, you're always told that your story needs 3 things. It is a beginning, a middle, and an end. So similarly, when you're telling a story, presenting data, you need context, observations, and insights. So let's break down what the 3 of those look like. So when it comes to context, if we're telling a story, the data should have context, and context sets the stage for what goal you're working towards. Especially when your clients aren't working in marketing or social media, you kind of need to remind them what the goals are or why these metrics matter. If you don't do this, you might end up with just a million questions about this metric or that metric, things that don't have anything to do with your goal. So for example, at HeyOrca, one of our main goals is advocacy. We want people talking about us, preferably positively. So our goal is to have 500 mentions on LinkedIn by the end of T3. So we're always keeping the context of this goal in mind. So thank you, Michelle, for being more cat content. I do think we should have more cat content. Okay, so setting the context. So you want to have overarching goals for each platform that you're working on. So for example, on LinkedIn, our goal is brand awareness and advocacy. So we measure this via the number of mentions. And on Instagram, our focus is providing helpful content to our community, which we measure by saves. So in the same way that every platform is different, right? People go on TikTok for a certain reason, people go on LinkedIn for a certain reason, and they're not really the same reasons, right? So in the same way that these are different platforms, you should have different goals, or maybe not you should have different goals, but it makes sense perhaps to have different goals. So don't feel like it has to be the same overarching goal for every single platform. Okay, moving forward to observations, the second part. So observation is just the facts of what's going on without putting on your opinion on it. So you'll share the facts about your metrics. So what's working, which posts are getting the most engagement, what's our follower count looking like. This is where visuals come in, graphs or screenshots. You'll show top posts, growth, that sort of thing. And you're basically just observing how things are going. And then we move on to insights. This is where you let your expertise as a social media manager shine. So your client can see the same visuals as you. Your client can see the same numbers as you, but you understand what it means. So this is where you come in and help explain that to your client, help them understand what's happening, what the numbers mean, that kind of a thing. So for example, if you have a lull in engagement, you might have a talk about what's happening. Are a lot of these posts maybe related to salesy kinds of things that people might not comment on or resonate with? So even with HeyOrca, for example, a couple weeks ago, we noticed a couple more unsubs than usual for our newsletter. And we had a chat with the marketing team and we're like, oh, what's going on? And we just took a look, and quite a few of the newsletters that week had been a bit more HeyOrca salesy related. Okay, we noted it. We used our insights to think like maybe, spreading that out, that kind of a thing. It's okay if things maybe don't look the way that you want, as long as you understand what's going on and can kind of make a plan moving forward. So in HeyOrca, you can actually get your observations in the report summary. This makes our lives so much easier because it's just a very nice summary of what's going on. And then you can use your time and energy to focus more on insights and strategy and content creation. So for example, this is our actual LinkedIn summary for August for our HeyOrca LinkedIn page, which is very meta. But as you can see here, audience growth, organic followers increased significantly. Our impressions rose steadily, and we had a boost in unique impressions, and engagement is up as well with a lot of clicks and likes and shares. So yeah, everyone right now in the chat, please go comment, good job, Jessica, to our amazing social media manager, because she's absolutely killing it on LinkedIn. Yeah. So just keep in mind that you want to share your observations without adding your insights, and then you cap off your observations with your recommendations and what this means to your brand or to your clients. Okay, perfect. Lots of good job, Jessica's in the chat. Perfect. That's what I want to see. Okay, so this is where trends come in as well. So showing trends is super important. It's where you talk about like where you've been, where you are, and where you'll go next. So if you look at like the top graph, it might be a little bit like confusing, like what's going on there with the followers, but the bottom graph shows like they're steadily increasing, and like surely your client can see that and get like a good idea of like what's going on there. And you want to help your clients visualize success. So part of our job as social media managers is to help our clients and our stakeholders visualize their success. So a lot of the times when you say like this or that content is doing really well, you're not in the weeds of social media. And so it's really hard to understand what that might mean. If you're not in the weeds of social media, you might not understand what that means. So you might understand it theoretically, but it's good to get everyone on the same page by showing screenshots of your top posts and what's working and what's not. So another shameless plug. This is another reason that I love the reporting side of HeyOrca, because I can rank posts by engagement, by comments, by likes, and by saves. And it ranks them while still providing the metrics like reach and views and shares in a way that's like really easy to see and understand. So this is an example of HeyOrca's top Instagram posts for the month of August. So let's put this all together in terms of what a report might look like. And remember, reports don't have to be super long, especially if you're presenting to leadership or clients who just might not have the time to read a super long report. So they just need to know the highlights of what our goals are, how things are going, and what we should do next. So this is an example report for Instagram for August for HeyOrca. So we're going to start off with a recap of our goals. And again, so our goals for Instagram are to provide our community with helpful content and to increase engagement. And then we'll move into the observations from the month. So for example, we gained 422 followers. We're 95 away from 18,000. So if you're not already following us, please do so we can hit that goal. Our Instagram content generated 1.275 million views, and we've got 416 shares and 310 saves, which, yeah, it's a little bit below our monthly saves target of 550. This is just an example of like the report doesn't have to show that like you're hitting every single goal. We'd love to see it, but the point of it is to see like where are we actually at? What should we do to reach that goal? So don't feel bad if you're not hitting the goal that you might have set out, because the point of social media like is sometimes to experiment and try different things to do that. So again, we're done going over observations, but we want to visualize that for our team. So we're using trend graphs to show, again, where we've been, where we're at, where we're headed. So for example, our follower trend shows that followers have been steadily increasing over the month. And our top posts will show what posts are doing well. So here, for example, we're seeing that videos that involve the rest of the team are doing well. I don't know if anyone does follow us on Instagram. The top left post is our fridge trend, where different employees from HeyOrca opened up the fridge and took out something random. It did so well. So we're seeing that content that includes the HeyOrca team, it's doing really well. 2 of those videos are trend breakdowns and instructions on like how to hop on trends, and hopping onto shareable memes and trending audio also did super well. So Jenna is saying Jess is a superstar. Yes, I've said it before. I'll say it a million more times. She really is. And then we're going to cap it off with insights and recommendations. So what might our insights be from this? So for example, we want to focus more on shareable content. Like I said, because 2 of our top 6 posts were trend breakdowns, we might want to do more of those. And also, noticing that like with a huge milestone being so close, we see an opportunity to celebrate that with maybe like a giveaway or like a message of gratitude, that kind of a thing. So that's how you might use data to tell a story. And now I'm going to pass it off to Alyssa to chat a little bit more about different reporting tools that you might use.
Yes, and I saw in the chat, we did have a question about tools. So we will go over a few here. So if you're building out a report, these are a few of our favorite tools. So of course, Canva is in there. We are big Canva lovers over here at HeyOrca. So Canva has a ton of amazing report templates, like even free ones, paid ones. There's so many to choose from. So it's a really great way to have a very pretty report that all you have to do is maybe change a few of the colors to make it match your brand and then pop the numbers in. You're good to go. So Canva is always great. Of course, there's HeyOrca reports as well. As you saw through the webinar, there's some awesome features like the AI report summary. You can get those reports sent to your clients every month if you want to do that. So yes, many amazing things within HeyOrca reports. And then we have Google Slides, which is probably the easiest option. They do have templates, but not as pretty as Canva, but they're pretty good and they are very easy to use. So that one's probably the easiest option. And then there's also Microsoft Create. So this one's also very easy to use and it is widely accessible. If I missed any that maybe you use that are not on the list, definitely share them in the chat.
In case you're curious, we at HeyOrca use a mix of HeyOrca reports, obviously, as well as Google Slides. Every Friday, we have a Google Slides that everyone on marketing fills in, including our social team, and then we go through it. And then when we get to the social section, they'll switch over to HeyOrca reports during that call. I think it works well. As Alyssa said, it's not as nice. It's not as aesthetically pleasing, but it definitely does the trick.
I'm seeing Jenna is asking if we do a year in review type of report. So I actually haven't been at HeyOrca for a full year, so I can't speak to that. But that is so interesting because it sounds like it would provide a lot of insight from like a high level overview.
Yeah, we've never done that, but it's definitely something we should do. We more look at weekly, monthly, quarterly, or I guess terms. And then, but I do think looking at like a year in review would be really interesting.
Reminds me of like the Spotify year in review.
I'm also seeing a question from Zoe. My managing director loves knowing everything, but hates spreadsheets. So would you still condense it? Yeah, that's tricky when someone, like might want to know everything. I think it's fair to like include everything in terms of like observations if they want to have an idea, but then being like, but we're focusing on this because of this. So always adding in like your expertise at the end of like why you're doing something might be helpful. And always adding in like visuals again, like trends or anything like that. I don't know if Jessie or Alyssa, you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, same.
Okay.
We had a question from Kiona that says, do you find it difficult to focus on one thing or one purpose? I work in higher education, so I sometimes feel like all of those things are part of the purpose. Yeah, that one is definitely complex because I know in higher ed, you have to think about like how many students know about you. If conversions is part of your social plan, how many people, go to an open house or become a student. So I can definitely see how that impacts your report. I guess my first feedback here is, if you meet with all of these teams separately, for example, if you meet with like the development team for alumni separately, have a report that's really focused around them. If you meet with recruitment separately, to have a report that's focused around their goals as well, if that's possible. I know every university team is slightly different in size and structure, but that would be my recommendation. Actually, maybe Alyssa, it's too early to say. I believe we're having a higher ed webinar in the near future.
We are. I'm very excited. It's actually very close. It will be going up soon, but it will be on September 25th. And that's all I'll say for now. But we're going to be going over like social strategy for higher ed, using students as your ambassadors, all that kind of stuff. And we've never actually done a higher ed webinar before, so I'm very excited. And I feel like it's a name that if you work in higher ed, I feel like you know who this is, but it will be announced very soon, but we're very excited.
It was a highly requested webinar.
Which I think also came from a webinar chat, or was one of the inspirations for it, I think.
Yes. When the survey goes out after our webinars, I think it goes out about 10 minutes after. There is a question that asks if you have any feedback or if you have any topic ideas, and I look at those every single week. So that's where I grab a lot of the ideas from. And yeah, we get a higher ed request a ton. We got this topic a lot. So yeah, if you ever have any topic ideas, feel free to let us know in the survey, or you can always message us. We love to know all your ideas.
Nice. Oh, so
I think we're about to say the same thing, Natalie, but I see a question from Jen, which says, how do you present this data to people who have, with no experience or insight in social media? My personal answer here is that if you're able to relate it to your purpose, which again should relate to your business, like overall business goals, that would probably be the easiest way to get there. I know it's hard to explain social to people who aren't in the field, but yeah, I think just being able to relate it back to that overall purpose is helpful. And then letting them know like what the goals are, what the impact of those goals could be, I think would help as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just kind of explaining as much as you can, like the difference in like, like why you look at a certain metric on one platform versus another, or like what the point of different platforms even might be, like maybe explaining more than you think you need to, because yeah, I guess if you're not like a daily regular social media user, a lot of the stuff is definitely not obvious. Yeah. Okay. Just looking if there are any more questions in the chat. Let's see. And Claire is requesting webinars for B2B companies. So something we'll keep in mind. Okay. Oh, and Zoe is asking how we put analytics for everything in this one report. I'm a solo social media manager and I report on everything we use. Instagram is our main social media platform, but we also have the podcast too on YouTube, and you're expanding. Okay, first of all, that is a lot to have on your plate. Yeah, it depends like how leadership likes to also like hear the information. Like it might be helpful to break down by platform and go through there. Like in previous roles when I worked on like multiple platforms, I would go platform by platform because I think it can be overwhelming to have everything at once. Yeah, I would go platform by platform. I don't know. What do you think, Jessie and Alyssa?
I would agree. You might need to go to a platform like Google Sites in order to be able to talk about all those different platforms in one place. I would start at the beginning though, Zoe, and say, here are the overall marketing department goals. Here's how each platform fits under it, and then go into the specifics there. Just because, yeah, you might need a reminder off the top of why do all these platforms exist, and then pulling them back to the purpose.
Yeah. Okay, and then Sarah's asking, how do we come up with our goals? How many saves we expected this month. So I think it's a combination of looking at past metrics. How many saves do we get on average? So if we were at regularly in the past getting 15 saves a month, it doesn't make sense to then have a goal of 500, right? But you also want it to be a goal that's I think we set goals for ourselves that are we definitely have to work hard to get them, but we can get there. We can definitely work hard and get there. So I think it's just a combination of looking at past data and doing something, choosing something that seems reasonable, but also setting a goal that, if you want, can be a bit of a stretch, but is still reachable. So that's how we do it.
Yeah, and if I can add more from, I guess, a marketing director point of view, a lot of the goals per platform are determined by higher goals. So for example, our goals in marketing for the entire marketing team is to increase demos, increase mentions, and increase free signups. So then from there, all the different channels are okay, how do these channels help with these larger overall goals? And they pick their numbers from those numbers as well. So for example, let's say I need 10 demos. Obviously we need more than 10. But then Natalie and Jessica on social will be okay, we need this amount of brand awareness in order to get this number of demos. And then they try to work from there. Hopefully that made sense.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm seeing one last question that's a little bit different, but Megan is asking, what advice would you give me in terms of handling social media as one person required to create and post every day, put out 8 videos a month, in addition to doing PR and award submissions? First of all, that is a huge workload to have on your plate. I'm noticing that we're reaching the end of our time for the webinar. So I'm going to post one last resource into the chat, which is our HeyOrca Facebook group. At this point, oh my gosh, is it 16,000 members in there?
It's very close, yes.
Yes, we're almost at 16,000 members. And this is not to pass you off to there. However, more so to say that if you have questions that are maybe unanswered or less related, it is a huge resource full of a ton of other social media managers who are going through all sorts of similar things and have tons of good advice in there. We see people helping each other, giving each other advice all the time. So just because we are getting close to time, so I just wanted to pop that in there so everyone knows about that resource that we've got.
Yay. And before we hop off, I do want to mention there is no webinar next week because the pod is actually getting together in person. So we'll be together all week next week. So if you stay tuned to our socials, I'm sure you'll see lots of fun content on there. So that is why there's no webinar next week. And I also want to plug our virtual summit that we're going to be having on October 2nd. I'm going to put it in the chat here. And early bird tickets end, I believe, September 14th. So you can get it right now at a discount. And it's all about mental health for social media managers. So we're very excited. And we even have someone from Headspace coming to chat with us, which we are so excited about. And we even have one of our HeyOrca stands, Danielle, talking as well. So we have so many awesome talks that day. There's also a lot of networking opportunities as well if you want to make friends with other social media managers. So yes, if you want to join that, you should definitely get your ticket now because early bird pricing ends in a couple days.
Mm-hmm. So, on the 14th, I believe.
Yes.
And all proceeds from the tickets are being donated to CMHA, which is a Canada-wide mental health organization, which we love. So yeah, hopefully we'll see a lot of you there. And I think that's all for today. But thank you so much for joining, everybody. Don't forget to, I guess the poll, we talked about the poll. So, but yeah, we'll have everyone's votes counted, but also definitely write a post on LinkedIn about what you learned, and we will be picking that winner on Tuesday. So thank you so much again, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.